My name is Jonny, and this is not just a story. It's the story of how I was broken, burned, rebuilt, and how love, even in its most painful form, can change the course of a lifetime. I wasn't like the others. I never had too many friends. My childhood was quiet, maybe too quiet. My father left us when I was a kid, and my mother, though strong, was too busy working to notice how lonely I really was. I spent most of my time alone in my room, escaping reality through games, especially Minecraft. In that pixelated world, I could build anything, be anyone, and for a while, that was enough. That's where I met her. Luna. It started with a simple team-up in a survival server. She had this spark in her words, funny, confident, quick. We started talking more. First in the game, then Discord, then calls. I didn't even realize how fast I was falling. For the first time, someone saw me. Really saw me. And when she said she loved me, I believed her. Every word. But I was naive. And she was something else entirely. I didn't see the signs. How she always asked about what I had, what I could give, how she'd talk about better futures and rich guys she used to know. I thought she was just joking, just dreaming. But one day, out of nowhere, she ghosted me. Blocked me everywhere. 2 weeks later, I saw her Instagram. She was with someone else. Rich, flashy, same smile, same charm. But that smile wasn't for me anymore. I felt like I had been stabbed in the chest. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Nights turned into nightmares. I cried alone, every damn night, staring at the empty Discord chats we once used to laugh in. Everything felt fake. I started questioning myself. Was I not enough? Was I too boring? Too poor? The depression hit me like a truck. There were days I didn't want to live. I stood at the edge of my rooftop one night. The city lights below me. They looked so peaceful, like a place I didn't belong to. But something stopped me. Maybe it was my mom's photo in my wallet. Maybe it was that little voice inside that said, "Your story isn't over yet." So I stepped back, and I promised myself something. I won't die like this. I'll live, and I'll make something of myself. The road wasn't easy. I cut myself off from everything for months. Deleted social media, sold my gaming PC, started working part-time jobs, studied at night. Slowly, I learned coding, design, business. I failed many times, lost money, got scammed. But every time I fell, I got back up, because pain had taught me one thing. No one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. Years passed. I built a company, a gaming startup, inspired by the very game where I first met Luna. Irony, right? It grew faster than I ever expected. Investors came, clients came. People started calling me a genius, a visionary. I smiled in front of cameras. But deep inside, I still carried that one broken piece of my past, and then fate, that cruel storyteller, brought her back. She walked into my office one rainy afternoon, resume in hand, wearing a cheap formal outfit, tired eyes, and a wedding ring she no longer wore. Luna. I couldn't breathe. She didn't recognize me at first. Or maybe she did, and pretended not to. But the shock on her face when she saw the nameplate on my desk, Jonny Roy, CEO, that told me everything. Life hadn't been kind to her. Her husband, the rich one, had died in a car accident. She was left with debt, a child, and no degree. She needed a job. Any job. And somehow she ended up at my company. I should have kicked her out. But I didn't. I told her she was hired. The days that followed were strange. We didn't talk about the past. She worked hard, quietly. I watched her, not like the girl I once loved, but like a stranger I barely knew. One night, I caught her crying in the office bathroom. She didn't know I was there. That moment broke something in me. The hatred I had held onto for so long, it started to melt. We began talking again. First about work, then about life. She apologized one night, Not in words, but in her eyes. And somehow I forgave her. I don't know why. Maybe because deep down I still loved her. Or maybe because I had changed and my heart wasn't made of glass anymore. It was steel, bent by fire. We started spending time together again. Slowly. Carefully. Her son called me Uncle Jonny the first time we met. And that name, it made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Maybe this was fate. Maybe this was life's twisted way of showing that people can change. And one evening, under the same sky we used to look at together in Minecraft, we kissed. No games, no lies, just two broken people finding each other again. Not in pixels this time, but in real life. This isn't a fairy tale. It's real. After Luna came back into my life, things began to shift. The woman who had once shattered my world now stood in front of me every day. Arranging documents, scheduling meetings, occasionally catching my eyes but quickly looking away, as if her gaze still carried the weight of guilt. I could see it. She wasn't the same Luna I had once fallen for. Life had changed her. Her eyes looked tired, her posture worn down, and her voice, no longer full of spark, but humble, careful, as if she was afraid that even her words might break something. Fragile. One afternoon when most of the team had gone out for lunch, I asked her to join me at the small coffee shop near the office. It wasn't planned. I just looked at her and said, "Let's talk." We sat quietly for a while. I watched her stir her coffee, eyes fixed on the swirling milk like it held answers. I didn't want small talk. I just asked softly, "Why did you do it?" She froze. Then almost in a whisper she said, "Because I was stupid, greedy, scared. I thought money would fix everything. I thought I deserved more, and I didn't want to wait for it. You were good to me, Jonny. The best I ever had. But I was too blind to see it then. I hurt you, and I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for it." I didn't reply right away. Because the truth is, I had played that scene in my mind 1,000 times. Her apologizing, me getting closure. But now that it was real, it didn't feel like I thought it would. The rage, the pain, they were still there, somewhere deep. But something else was rising too. Peace. Maybe it was because I had grown stronger. Maybe it was because I saw in her what I once saw in myself. A lost soul, trying to survive. A storm they created. "I'm not the same guy anymore," I told her. "I don't hate you, Luna. I did. But I moved on. You can too." She nodded, blinking back tears. That was the first time I saw her smile. Not the flirty one from the past, but a broken, honest smile. The kind that says thank you without words. Days passed. She kept working. Always professional. Always quiet. But there was warmth now. In our small talks, in the way she'd bring an extra coffee to my desk without asking, or how she'd remember. Little things about me, my favorite music, how I took my tea, the things no one else bothered to notice. And then one evening, something happened. There was a company event. Everyone was dressed up. Luna was there too, in a simple black dress, hair down, no flashy makeup, just her. The music was playing softly, people dancing, laughing. I was standing alone near the balcony when she walked up beside me. "You look tired," she said. I smiled. "Running a company is exhausting," she laughed gently. "You always said you'd do something big. I just didn't know you'd go this far." I looked at her. "And you? How are you holding up?" She hesitated. "Some days I can't breathe. Some nights I cry myself to sleep, but I keep going. For my son. For myself." I looked out at the stars. "You know what I miss the most?" I said. "That first night we built a house together in Minecraft. You made the windows too high, remember?" She laughed again, and this time it was real. "I wanted to keep the creepers out." "Yeah," I said. "But you kept me out too." She turned to me. "Maybe I was afraid you'd see the real me." "I saw you, Luna. I always did." There was a pause, the kind that wraps two people in silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because some feelings don't need words. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. We started seeing more of each other outside of work. Not romantically. Not yet. Just long walks, honest conversations, shared laughter. Sometimes her son would join us. He was 5. Bright eyes, wild imagination. The kind of kid who asks a million questions and laughs like it's the most important thing in the world. He reminded me of what I used to be before the world got heavy. One evening, after dropping him off at his school, Luna turned to me in the car and said, "Do you think people like us? People who mess up? Get second chances?" I looked at her. We don't just get second chances. We build them. And that's what we did. We didn't fall in love again like before. Fast and naive. We grew into it, slowly, with time, with scars still healing, with nights of talking till 3 a.m. about everything we'd never said before. I showed her my pain. She showed me hers. I told her about the night I almost jumped. She cried. She held my hand tighter than ever. I forgave her. And she forgave herself. And one day, under a sky full of stars, not in Minecraft, not on a screen, but right there in real life, she kissed me. Not out of excitement, not out of passion, but out of peace. But out of peace. Months passed. Luna and I started to live like we had been given a second chance at something most people only dream about. Redemption. We were older now, wiser, and no longer in a rush to chase moments. We were building something real this time. Something that didn't come from sparks and thrill, but from ashes and healing. But life, as always, had other plans. One rainy evening, Luna came home later than usual. Her son was with me, drawing little stickmen on my tablet, when I noticed Luna's eyes, red, glassy, distant. "What happened?" I asked, gently. She sat down slowly and whispered, "I lost my job." "What? How?" She sighed. "The company shut down. No notice. I wasn't ready for it." I held her hand. "You don't have to be ready for everything, Luna. You've already been through hell and made it back. But I have a child now, Jonny. I can't afford to fall apart anymore." That hit me hard, because I saw a different kind of strength in her now. Not the stubborn kind she had when she left me all those years ago, but the fragile, exhausted strength of a mother who's scared every single day, but keeps going anyway. Offered her a position in my company, a higher one this time. Not because she was Luna, not because I owed her, but because she had changed, she had proven herself. "I want you beside me, not just in life, but here. Building this together." She hesitated. "People will talk." "Let them," I said. "Let them talk about how people can change. Let them talk about what forgiveness looks like." Things got better. We were finally dreaming again, like 2 survivors who made it out of the war zone and were planting flowers on scorched land. Until one day, Luna got a phone call. It was from the hospital. Her ex-husband, the man she had left me for, the one who gave her luxury but not love, had been in a car accident. A drunk driver hit him head-on. He didn't survive. The news didn't shock her. What shocked her was what came next. He had no will, no savings, and all his debts were now legally tangled with hers, because they never finalized their divorce properly. I still remember her breaking down that night, not out of love for him, but out of fear that history was about to repeat itself, again. "I can't do this again, Jonny," she cried. "I can't lose everything again." I held her, tighter than ever before. "You're not alone this time." Weeks turned into months. We worked together, laughed together, cried sometimes too. But we stood firm, side by side. There were days I still had flashbacks. Those nights when she was with someone else, when I was left in the dark trying not to disappear. But every time those memories returned, I looked at her, the woman she had become. And I knew, people change. And so do hearts. One evening, I found an old diary of mine, from the year everything broke. I opened it, flipping through pages, full of pain, self-hate, and loneliness. Pages where I had written, "I am nothing, she left, and I don't know how to breathe anymore." I closed the book, not out of shame, but out of peace. Because now, Luna was sitting on the couch playing with her son, and the room was filled with laughter, not tears. That night, I sat beside her and said, "I want to marry you." She stared at me, silent. "I don't care about the past. I don't care about what people say. I care about this. Us. Now." Tears fell from her eyes, but she smiled. "Then let's do it. Not for a fairy tale, but for real life." We didn't have a grand wedding, just a small ceremony with close friends. Her son held the ring. I held her hands. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a broken version of myself. I felt whole. Not because I had everything figured out, but because I had someone beside me who had seen me at my worst and still stayed. And that's not where the story ends. Because life still throws curveballs. Bills still come. Sadness still visits. But now, we face it together. Not as a boy and a girl who met in Minecraft, but as two souls who built a life, block by block, out of ruins. Marriage didn't magically fix everything. It just made the fight worth it. Luna and I had our share of arguments. I had my moments of doubt. There were nights where we went to bed silent, backs turned, hearts heavy. Not because we didn't love each other, but because we were two people with scars trying not to bleed on one another. But what made us stronger was this. We talked, even if it hurt, even if it meant crying mid-sentence. We never let silence grow between us for too long. One evening, after a long day at work, Luna was washing dishes, her hair tied up messily, sleeves rolled. I hugged her from behind and whispered, "Do you ever wish you could go back? Change everything?" She paused for a second, then said, "If I could go back, I would still want to meet you. But I'd choose better. I'd choose you." I kissed her shoulder. That's all I needed to hear. A year passed. Her son, our son now, started calling me Dad one random afternoon while showing me a drawing. I didn't react at first. I was stunned. Then I smiled. He didn't even notice the weight of what he'd done, but I did. That night, I cried silently in the kitchen, because I wasn't just healing as a lover anymore. I was becoming a father. Then came the hard year. Our company hit a crisis, a sudden market crash. Investors pulled out, projects halted, salaries delayed. I started working 16-hour days again. Luna was holding the family together, managing finances, school, groceries, and yet I could feel the tension creeping back into our home. One night, I snapped. She asked a simple question. "Are you okay?" And I barked, "I don't have time to be okay." The silence that followed was worse than any scream. I saw her shrink back, eyes watering. I hated myself in that moment. I walked out. Just walked aimlessly through the night, cursing everything, wondering if I was turning into the kind of man I never wanted to be. At a park bench, I sat down, exhausted, defeated, and opened my phone. I didn't know why, but I opened Minecraft, the game we hadn't touched in years, and there it was, our old world, still saved. The house with the 2 high windows, the garden, the lava fountain she accidentally built. I logged in, and in-game, I found a sign she had once placed years ago, behind a tree. "For Jonny, I'm sorry if I ever lose you." I broke down. That night, I went home. She was awake, sitting on the floor, crying. I sat beside her, and without a word, we just held each other. Sometimes love doesn't need fixing. It just needs presence. We downsized, sold some assets, rebuilt the business slowly, together, from the ground up, again. But this time we had each other's back like never before.